that because they look like that guy, they deserve to have what he has. So their current interest, their current state of poverty is accidental.
What are both of you trying to say, though?
That's basically the same thing.
Right, but it's a little bit different in terms of how you actually like structure like the mental gymnastics that you've got to go through, right? Because on the one hand, if you're like, oh, I'm currying favor with this guy, you have to recognize that you were somehow like dependent on his favor. If you are just a temporarily poor person that's fallen on hard times, you're not currying favor, which again doesn't jive with the message of self-determination and independence that they've been fed, which is bullshit, because like nobody's completely independent. Nobody is completely self-made. That's not how the economy works. That's not how like society works. There are no more bootstraps, guys. Like,
where
that should go.
Are we talking about like the different classes in whites and what we've been led to believe, what is not true?
So I'm talking specifically to a very particular version of poor white. So one of the things that terrified plantation owners well before the kerfluffle in the 1860s was that poor whites who were sharecroppers and slaves had similar interests. None of them had power, none of them had money, and they were both groups that were completely abused by the people in power.
And that goes back to what I was just saying. Like they have interests that are the same, but for whatever reason they're aligning themselves with someone who doesn't care about them. They only want to use them.
So I'm kind of going. I'm getting to that. Give me a second. So what the oligarchs did is they start talking in pulpits, and God knows how important those are in the United States, and particularly in the southern United States. They start talking in pulpits, they start talking everywhere else, and then basically what they do is they take these poor whites and they elevate them and they hire them, and they're like, hey, we're going to put you in charge of these people because you are white and you are better, and that's where we get the overseer class.
Now the puzzle and the pyramid scheme is coming together. Like,
right. So they gave those poor whites a reason to buy into the system. And by giving them a reason to buy into the system, they secure their loyalty, and then basically followed it up.
But what's not happening today? That is not happening today. It's that generation after generation, they're poor. It's not changing.
Not arguing.
So why
fundamentally not arguing?
Why is it that they're unable to?
But they are still cleaving to this indoctrination.
I think what Marie just said is they've been fooled and they've been bamboozled.
Yeah, I get that, all I'm saying is, after so many different generations, you could see the definition of crazy is allowing yourself to believe the same thing, hoping for something different time and time.
Insanity.
Right, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a result.
So why do they continue to align themselves with these people who don't care about them? That makes
conditioning.
Because
again, it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't when you've never been inside that system. But when you're in the system,
it makes sense to you.
This is insidious. This is the worst part about it. Like, and this is where the prosperity gospel comes in. Because the prosperity gospel says that God is going to provide you prosperity based on your merits. So the problem is that if your ass is still poor, it's not because the structures exist to keep you poor. So you're not looking at that. You're looking at what you're doing wrong.
That's some dumb shit.
Look,
I'm not arguing. I am not arguing that
Jermaine,
it's some dumb.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. All I'm saying is that's some dumb shit. If you're gonna continue to believe all that shit and then say, "Oh, it's because you're black," you're getting these things because you're black, and not realizing, shit, we're worse than you. We just happen. Let me be quiet.
It's not even that. It's not even that. It's just like when you have like literally 3 intellects in one group chat right here that we have right now, we can look at it and analyze the system, which is what it actually goes beyond my reasoning and interpretation why anyone would not understand what Star Trek is all about. But we can look at it and say, oh, we know what this is. But it's like when we're saying, if you're in it, you're just like, oh yeah, this makes sense. I'm just gonna get up and and you don't even realize you're a chess piece. You don't even realize you're.
Think about cult members. Cult members, they get so kind of caught up in this that they actually have to go, like when you extract them from that situation, they've got to go through a deprogramming system. And that's effectively what we're looking at, is we're looking at deprogramming large swaths of our nation, because they've effectively been sold this bill of goods for generations. And it becomes so bound up, and this is where identity politics comes in. It becomes so bound up in their conception of who they are and the narrative of their lives that stepping away from it and looking at it objectively undermines everything they believe and everything they've accepted about themselves. And their minds just don't, I mean, there's this moment of just like kind of blanks, and they can't, and folks can't do that.
They can't think for themselves. Is that what it is? They literally cannot think for themselves. I just have a hard time understanding how someone really truly can't think for themselves. Like there's I remember asking my mom a question: are you a Republican or Democrat? I don't know what I am. Okay. Do you believe in this? Do you believe in this? Do you believe in this? And I was in high school. Do you believe in this? Do you believe in this? And she was able, like, I believe in this. Well, Ma, you're this. Yeah, I just didn't want to tell you what I was because I wanted you to make up your own mind.
I remember I studied abroad in college, right? And I come back and I'm having dinner in my father's house. And this is right around like the first Iraq War. And I'm sitting there like, none of this makes sense. Like, I'm like, this none of this follows. None of this makes logical sense. And I remember my father and my stepmother looking at me and saying, they know something we don't. We have to have faith in them. And I'm like, no. No, we don't. Y'all, I wasn't even 20. And I'm like,
no.
What? And then years later, come to find out that they didn't know anything we didn't know.
Wow.
But that my father and my stepmother, and to a lesser extent my mother, had been sold this bill of goods. The reason I was able to step out of that was because I'd been living in a foreign country.
You were able to look at America objectively, especially through the lens of a foreign country.
So that's when
and you guys have effectively been looking at this. I mean, I hesitate to call it from the lens of a foreign country, but like Black people have been the other and the outside for, I don't know, 200 years now or more.
Yeah. And what we've been taught, we've had to learn from our families, even though we go to public schools learning whitewash stuff every day.
Again, not arguing about that, and it's awful. But for me, I had to get out of the community
just to see the problem
and go somewhere else, live somewhere else, be the other for a good long while, come back, and I'm like, this is fucked up shit.
Marie, I'm going to ask you a question. It's still germane to what we're talking about, and yet it's going to sound kind of wacky, kind of like, what is going to change this? Because I'll be honest with you, there was a point when, like, shortly after January 6th, I was like, we
We're
might we
fucked.
might have a civil war, and
Yeah.
I'm so fearful of the next election.
I would like to tell you, I really would like to tell you that there's reason to change. Honestly, I think if anything is going to change, it's going to be Black people and Black women specifically mobilizing the electorate. That's what's going to change things.
In the midterms,
And
we are
that's
so
and that is
complacent during
where the
midterms.
Democrats have been traditionally weak. But Stacey Abrams, God love and thank you for Stacey Abrams.
Going door
um,
to door with that shit.
yeah, no, I mean, but it's basically, yeah, that's what it is. Because we've got to let whole generations die. I think I have a lot of faith in younger millennials, especially like the Parkland generation, because they have had experiences that pull them out of the fog, as it were. I think Xenials are also coming out of the fog because these are groups of people that legitimately aren't buying this nonsense that their lack of prosperity is their fault. They're coming into this, they're looking at it and they're like, we have watched people gun down our peers. We're watching, boomers not retiring and, our friends and older siblings living with our parents. And they're like, this is some nonsense. And I think it's that kind of cultural change. It's that kind of cultural disruption that's going to break the hold this narrative has had. The problem is that in certain pockets of the United States, they're not as exposed to these tensions. And it's easier to sort of shrug and say, well, that happens elsewhere. Or we're going to shrug and call it a mental health issue, which is a whole different kettle of fish. It drives me nuts. Like Jermaine's face. That's like my whole opinion of that whole thing.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, like I mean, that's effectively what's going to have to happen. I mean, we're going to have to watch generations die.
I'll be honest. I know there's like a lot of talks about, I don't think it'll be a race war. I think that's too specific. I do think that a civil war is on the books, but at the same time, a civil war might be on the books. But if it does not,
but I think it's a cultural thing.
It's a cult, right?
I think it's a cultural thing. I think we are looking. I think we really are looking at the death of a certain flavor of culture, and there are people who cleave to that and have all to gain from it, and that's why Trump got elected.
And he's gonna try again, and when he tries again, and if that doesn't happen, what I think will happen, and I brought this up at the very beginning of Strikers Delight, the very, very beginning, was about the Bell riot situation. That particular moment in history stood out to me the most because aside from like First Contact and the Whale movie and all that stuff, that was like the most 100% realistic. Because
don't get me wrong, I love that Whale movie.
It was bomb. It was great.
That's my happy place, and I refuse to take questions on this issue.
Miraculously, after that year, there have been a surplus in whales since that time. So thank Kirk, Spock, all of them. Thank you.
Really, they can see statistically a difference in the number of whales
from the time that
that's
movie
so awesome.
From 1984.
See, that's what I'm talking about. That is Star Trek.
That is
Star Trek.
That is Star Trek right there. But back to the Bell Rights part, it happens in September 2024. Do you understand that what? And I understand they probably would have made that up, but you would have had to think 40 years ahead of your time to conceive that date. And knowing how many Black Lives Matter movements and how many Capitol riots have been going on, we are headed to that climax, to that pivotal point where humanity has to make a decision about which way they want to go. Which again, and that's a Deep Space Nine episode. So how
And
do
you
you
know,
watch
and you
it
know,
and
like
not?
you bring that up, but that's one of the things I really love about But to Connect, because
Mm,
Michael Burnham, God love Michael Burnham. Michael Burnham fundamentally believes that we have to be the best version of ourselves at
always.
every given moment, no matter what that costs us. That that is the fundamental right thing to do. Um, and so Michael Burnham is going to stand there and watch her relationship crumble because it's the right thing to do to reach out a hand in diplomacy to species 10C.
Another way of saying that is make the hard decisions.
Hmm.
Make the
And we
hard
don't
decisions
want
that are
we
the right decisions.
and
Exactly.
we don't always want to make those decisions because even though Booker doesn't think, even though Book doesn't think it, not only did Michael lose an entire world 950 years ago, everyone she knows, even thinks of knows, are not only dead, they're dust. Okay, and Spock is further back in the past than what she thinks, which but she doesn't know that. But and then she comes 1,000 years in the future, and the Federation is gone. So
But that's the moral compass that Star Trek asks us to have.
when you lose everything, can you uphold your values when everything goes to shit? Can you
And
do
that
it?
is the moral compass that Star Trek asks us to have.
And
And it
and
asks
to
us to do that.
and to me, that is why she's such an effective person slash captain, because she makes decisions, like she makes the hard decisions that a lot of people are so uncomfortable with making. Only time proves she made the right decision, right? Time proves that she does, but in the moment, nah, people aren't feeling her in the moment. But
Because
time.
she's thinking ahead. She's
Mhm.
thinking ahead. Will these have repercussions 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 100 years in the future? Or should I go ahead and take the vengeful route just because I don't feel good and do it just because some kid cried halfway across the galaxy because his mama died, which I'm still mad
Oh
about.
my God, like your hate for that just comes through.
Throw my
Going
wine in your
back to
face.
this, this is one of the reasons that I value Star Trek so much, is because like Star Trek is a constant reminder in ways that perhaps other cultural phenomena are not. Um, that we have to be, and that it's a constant choice, and it's an act, it is an act of affirmative choice. It's an affirmative obligation on us to consistently make the decision to be the best versions of ourselves. And then, and even when that doesn't work out, even when we stumble and fall, we have to acknowledge that, apologize, make amends, and then step the fuck up and keep going. And if I can impress upon my children one thing, it would be that.
Here, here. Well said.
That was well put. Thank you, Marie, for that.
And this is why I'm a Star Trek fan, and this is why I'm on Trekker's Delight, and this is why I love you guys, because we're all kind of, because
It's not the whiskey. It's not the whiskey.
it's not that
It's
whiskey.
not the whiskey.
It's not
It's
that
not,
whiskey. But
or
no,
the red
I
wine.
really fundamentally, like over and over, I have seen all of us try to work in concert to create the best product we can, and to reach the best number of people we can, and to be the best version of ourselves. And I think, if nothing else, in that sense, we have embraced the Trek ethos, and that's fantastic.
On Trek ethos. Because I'll be honest, Even as a gay black man myself, you would think that, oh, because William's part of these communities, he would have it all figured out. I do not. There were two instances where I had to sit down and listen to why this was interpreted the way it was. It was Amok Time, and it was Angel One, was it? Which one we talk about, Marie? I believe it was Angel One. I didn't understand either of those. I didn't. I looked at through the eyes the way, let's just say, some other people would. Just like there's a difference between people who go to Star Trek for the guns, the space battles, and the occasional sexy people. That's why I watched it and I was like, oh, cool. But then I was like, okay, what's the problem? And that was me. I didn't understand the portrayal that they were doing on women for Angel One. I didn't understand the eroticism that was going on during Amok Time. I didn't get it. I was like, I need. So I asked Marie, and Robin, I believe, was there at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Explain Angel One to me, because I do not get it. I do not understand. Not only was it a misrepresentation of how women would act if they were in that situation, this was based off of the story's been skewed, but it's based off of a true story that actually happened directly from that, somewhere in Southern Africa.
And even then, that's not what happened with the fall of apartheid. I mean, it's. I was telling Jermaine earlier. I think there's a really interesting kind of conversation to be had between what's being shown explicitly and what's not being shown explicitly, and then somewhere in between is there this fertile ground to talk about the assumptions that, because Star Trek is art, and artists are a product of their environment and of the culture that produced them. And so having a conversation about like the assumptions that go into the formation of these stories, and also how they're trying to circumvent some of the expectations that are placed on these stories by, censorship laws, networks, the social mores of the time. And that's where, and that's really where I think the most interesting discussion actually lies, because I think there's a very fertile ground to talk about how to be the best version of ourselves we can be, is somewhere in that space between what we do say and what we can't say. And if we take away this concept of what we can't say, what would that look like? And that's really where I think the purest Star Trek literally lives.
Well, what is it that Discovery is not saying? Because Discovery gives no shit.
And I love it. I am here for that. I am here for that. That's what's fantastic, is because the 90s, so 90s Trek, which everybody loves, me included, 90s Trek is bound up in these kind of like concepts of like what people look like, what society is going to look like, who gets to sit at the table. Discovery is like, nah, dog. That is not who gets to sit with it at the table. That is not who gets to determine what's going on. And I love that that's happening. And that could only happen, y'all, in 2021 on a streaming service.
Hey.
True. That's the point. Like, it's almost like a good thing that this show and all shows afterward is on Paramount Plus or CBS. Where'd he go?
I don't know.
Because they could do and say what, not whatever, but almost whatever that they really couldn't say on primetime television. They just couldn't. But my question is this: I wonder how we'll look back at Discovery 20 years from now. I wonder if we will assign them all the accolades that we're giving them today, 20 years from now. I wonder
I
how
think
how
I think
critical.
Discovery has had its growing pains, and I think Discovery has had places where it could have gone further. Like I really would like to see bisexual representation separated from villainy. Just floating that out there as a
Really.
personal preference.
Yeah.
Not that Giorgio's not badass, but like, come on, let's not. And I would also like to see a lesbian relationship that doesn't involve one of the partners being fridged, like Jet Reno's wife. Um,
Oh, I was like, wait. I was trying to remember, like, what
right?
lesbian
Yeah, no.
relationship
Like
is
Jet
that?
Reno's wife dies so that she can have that conversation with Stamets.
Yeah.
um, but I gotta give credit where credit is due. Is that Discovery is pushing the envelope, and Discovery has gotten a lot of unearned hate for pushing that envelope, and a lot of people have complained about agendas and whatever. And I find that really frustrating because Star Trek has been about agendas since 1966.
The beginning. The
Yeah,
beginning.
like Star Trek has been about agendas since the beginning because they put a black woman on the bridge, which was huge, huge in 1966 because she's not a maid, she's not subservient, she is literally an important part of the functioning of the bridge.
So
Not
I
only
remember
that, but they also put a Russian on the bridge. And a lot of people kind of gloss over the significance of Chekhov.
years later,
Yeah,
but
but
back
like
then it was very in your
it was
face.
huge because what Roddenberry was effectively saying is that we're eventually going to get over this nonsense that is the Cold War, and that eventually we're all going to be one people. And, you know, we'll ignore the existence of the terrible monkey's wig that they made Walter Koenig wear.
That was weird.
Hey, we're
It
the
was a wig.
monkeys,
It was a wig.
and people say we monkey around. But look, it was just one thing that I wanted to add to that. So I forget who it was I was telling, but Spock to me, even though he was a Vulcan, yeah, got it. But to me, he represented the other,
Mhm.
and the other for me represented a black person, even though Nichelle Nichols was there and her face was there, but his character represented the other,
Mhm.
someone who we don't really like, but we're going to accept, and then because you got to know him,
Mhm.
you got to love him. And that's how I looked at his character.
Right, but I mean, but you have to remember like how much flack they got for having Leonard Nimoy on the show because they all had this. They were like, he's saturnine, he's going to scare female viewers, which, fun fact, did not happen. Literally, the reverse happened, which is why we have Kirk Spock fan fiction and like the birth of what is really the first sort of modern fandom.
It's so silly.
It's not though. It's
No, I'm
really
laughing
not.
at William. I'm like, I don't know if you saw his face.
Oh no. Well, okay, that's fine. But but it's not. I mean, and it's kind of huge actually because women got together and banded together to keep everything on the air because they saw something in Commander Spock. Like you saw black people in Commander Spock or people of different races. Women saw themselves.
Explain. I'm interested in
So
hearing.
it's the same kind of concept. Excuse me. The extremely fat cat wants to be let out of my office.
Oh, you're not a Trek fan if you don't have a cat.
I don't.
I don't have a cat.
Neither do I.
So this,
What about poor?
so the
poor
same
those?
things that you're looking at as with respect to black people sort of apply to women in the 60s in the sense that they are a power minority. There isn't, and even in God love Star Trek, because all throughout TOS, women are treated very, very differently than men.
Very.
Very differently than men. Culminating in one of the episodes we're going to cover for FTP, which is Turnabout Intruder. The plot of that if you don't remember, is that Janice Lester discovers this ancient technology that allows her to switch bodies with Captain Kirk. And the reason she wants to switch bodies with Captain Kirk is because Starfleet has told her that because she's a woman, she cannot be a captain.
That's what that is about?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was because they had a thing and he didn't want her no more.
I need to watch this episode. When was the last? It's been a while. Okay, I need to watch this episode. What's the name of this episode again? Let me write it down.
Turnabout Intruder. It's in fact the series finale.
It was the last episode, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It was because that was the significance of it. It was the last episode of TOS. I thought they had a thing.
And they may have, but really one of the things she makes very clear is that she wants to become a man so that she can advance her career.
Okay, I remember.
So they ended with a bang. They pretty much.
And what's terrible about that episode, that right there. I'm sorry, guys. This is going to be an adult version of Trekker's Delight.
This is Trekker's Delight.
But we're going to cover this more in depth later, obviously, on Fight the Patriarchy. And I'm not legitimately just plugging the show, although I am. But like, that's not what we're talking about here. The show actually ends with Janice dying, and what's interesting is no one questions her assertion ever.
Kirk knew the truth, though. Kirk knew the truth.
Kirk knew the truth, but like no one questions the assumption that men can only be captains, that only men can be captains.
Wow. So Star Trek is asserting that that women are second class all up until that era.
Right. And even and then certainly even looking at how TNG characters are treated, it's not great. It's not great. So, but going back to your original question about like how, Spock as an outsider is treated, remember the 60s are also when a lot of women are going into STEM, right? Hidden Figures talks about this. So women of color, all of these people who don't traditionally have voices are going into STEM and are trying to make themselves heard based on their qualifications and what they can do. And nobody's listening. Really. And so a lot of these women are seeing themselves in Spock, because Spock is frequently right. He is frequently he's incredibly competent.
And when
he is more competent than his human coworkers, but he has to navigate these social mores that don't come naturally to him, and he's kind of caught trying to figure out how to tamp, at least in TOS, how to tamp down that competence so that he's more acceptable to his human coworkers. So it's not just men, it's not just people of color, although there's a lot of that metaphor there. It's also anybody who's a power minority and trying to navigate an entire society based on the power majority.
Spock could be interpreted as that voice, because when I say that voice, I mean, I don't know why I'm hearing myself, but it's okay. Whenever he talks about, one of your human emotions, one of this, that, and the other, he almost always says that to a cis white male officer on the Enterprise. I have never heard him say that to a woman or an alien or Uhura at all.
To be fair, 90% of the people on the Enterprise are cis white males.
Oh, you mean
in TOS?
Not the cast, but everyone on the
like ship. if you look at TOS and you look at who's in the background, Roddenberry does a really great job of bringing black people, and I will give him credit for this.
There was that one black doctor,
Jeffrey Mabenga, and that was huge, guys.
Who will be on Strange New Worlds?
And that was
that character.
He's going to be the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank God!
Because having and not only pay attention here, he's Jeffrey Mabenga,
Black.
African.
African,
right? And so what Rob Mary's talking to in that particular moment is the stereotype of Africans as being lesser and uncivilized and unintelligent, because Bones, in fact, defers to Mabenga with respect to Spock's health, because Mabenga's a better Vulcan specialist than Bones is.
Wow.
I do remember that.
And they probably didn't even think about it because Bones was the main character.
But that's one of the great things. So TOS is kind of like this mixed bag. It really is.
All these great things, but a lot of missed opportunities.
A lot of missed opportunities. But one of the great things about Star Trek, though, is that every time we have a missed opportunity, we have the opportunity to make that better. And I sort of see Star Trek as being this narrative of constant improvement and of recognizing those missed opportunities and trying to be better. And I really think that Discovery, going back to Jermaine's original point, is firmly grounded in being better, and being better than 90s Trek was.
Question. Well, no, hold up. So we see, now all of a sudden, like, well, how did your girl become captain of the Shinzo?
That's a great question.
Because what I was about to ask is that not the reason why it took Burnham so long to be? And then I just remembered, I just watched the first season of Discovery, but she was already captain of the Shinzo. So
I have two things. I have two things to that point, Jermaine. I have two things. One, I think it's safe to assume when what's the Gabriel someone who was the first captain of Discovery?
Lorca.
When Lorca came over, when he did, it's safe to assume he influenced a lot of shit. That's for starters. For two, but let's just put that in there. But the question I think he's asking is, well, how did we get a woman in the captaincy, right? Well, not just
a woman, but I think an Asian woman is another question.
Right, because not only did we get Giorgio in the captaincy, we also
of the Shinzo.
Not
Discovery.
Not Discovery.
Right, and that's also important because Shinjo is, like, largely the names of Federation vessels have been,
American,
like, even indigenous American. And so, like, there's some conversation about the fact that, like, why does Giorgio have to be captain of the Shinjo? Like, why does an Asian woman have to captain the vessel?
I have no idea.
For an Asian figure, which is kind of an interesting question, and also I think exists in kind of that liminal space that I was describing earlier between what is said and what is not said. But I think Giorgio, because I think they knew what Giorgio was going to become. And I think they knew that there was going to be a mirror universe arc from the jump.
You think so?
And I think I do. I really, really do. I think they had that shit planned. And I think what Giorgio is, Michelle Yeoh is a nod to Hoshi Sato, and specifically Mirror Universe Hoshi Sato, when she declares herself emperor.
I've heard you say that several times. I don't recall. I don't have the memory that you all have. When did they say that Hoshi is the ancestor of?
They never actually say that. We just kind of know.
So there was that two-parter in Enterprise with the Mirror Universe, right? Like where the Constellation class gets like dumped into the Mirror Universe via the events in the Tholian Web, right? And then the mirror universe in X-01, like they stumble upon this ship. It's in distress. Everybody's dead. There are random Gorn mysteriously aboard this vessel. I'm sure there's an explanation. I don't remember it. But anyway.
It will make for a great short track.
Right. So, like, they're on this vessel, and they're all trying to take this over for the glory of the Empire. And literally everybody ends up killing themselves until Hoshi Sato, who is the captain's woman, if I remember correctly. It's been a while. Offs Archer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, poisons him.
Yep. And then she takes command of this incredibly advanced space vessel, pilots that shit back to Earth, and looks down at Terra and is like, bitches, I am your emperor now.
I just want to say this literally has zero anything to do with the point, but when I saw her kiss, what's the dude's name? The pilot.
Montgomery.
Travis Merriweather.
When I saw them kiss, that's when I had a crush on him, and that's when I knew I was gay as fuck. He looks. And what I love, and they put he put his black ass in a red suit, and they let him live, and now he's the empress's bitch, and I'm just like, bro, I am here for that shit. That is the shit. Now that is Star Trek.
What I
the
really
first gentleman
love,
of the Emperor. Yeah, okay.
I gotta tell you, what I really love about those two episodes, is that it's almost like those two episodes are basically giving the finger to Hoshi's treatment throughout the entirety of Enterprise.
Oh, yeah. They treated her like nothing. And then
it was terrible.
And then she heard how what her other in the Prime universe what she was like, which I think prompted her even more to become Empress. Prompted her even more
to take those steps to become.
Right.
She's like, you know what? Universal Translator my ass. I'm finna rule the whole fucking galaxy. Like,
guys, remember, not only Universal Translator, she actually dies on Tarsus 4.
Yeah.
Remind me.
So Tarsus 4 is the colony where there's the episode in the original series called The Conscience of the King. James Kirk and Kevin Riley are on this colony world for whatever reason, and some sort of blight hits the crops, and they can't get information, like a comm out to Starfleet in time. And so this guy named Kodos is looking at this and is like, well, half of us are going to starve. So what he does is he basically starts this whole eugenics program in the colony and assassinates half the colony's population. There's a whole conversation about a children's revolt that was led by everybody's boy Kirk. And he gets, I mean, if I remember correctly, it's been a hot minute, guys, I will admit. But he gets a message out to Starfleet. And Starfleet eventually comes, finds out what Kodos was doing. Kodos fakes his own death, and escapes. But, most of, and what Starfleet finds is, like, the remainder of the colony, everybody's starving and is in terrible shape, and most of the children are the ones who remain.
You mean Hoshi was one of the adults to pass?
And Hoshi was one of the adults and died on Tarsus 4.
Oh no. Oh no.
Wait.
So that's actually kind of floating around in the background of Abrams' track. There's, if you pay attention, Kirk is part of a linguistics club, and there's this whole conversation about, like, where did he get his linguistics chops? And so one of the assumptions is that Hoshi Sato taught him.
Which means
she was on Tarsus 4.
She never went.
No, she did. Like, she taught him while he was on Tarsus 4, because all of the events in the Kelvin timeline occur after he would have gotten back from Tarsus 4.
Oh, snap.
So, Fannin has it that after he drove the car off the cliff, because, there are so many random cliffs in Iowa.
Yeah, okay.
But so Fannin has it that after he drove the car off the cliff, that his stepfather grabs him and then chucks him into space to Tarsus 4.
Okay, so I do have a question. So what puts Hoshi on Tarsus 4?
I don't know.
That's probably where she wanted to spend her retirement days.
I don't know.
Because she went on to serve a little bit longer, but after 10 years on the Enterprise, she was done. Because she was almost done after the first season. So,
right.
Like she's like, I didn't even want to be here. Like, she said that on episode 1, y'all. So so I don't think so I think this was like Hoshi might have did a teaching thing, because you mentioned children, so she probably did a teaching thing. She might have been one of the teachers on that planet.
Yeah, she was teaching when he pulled her.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So yeah, and
it does
I
make
would
sense.
wager.
I get it.
I would wager, Mirrorverse, Hoshi finished that biography at some point.
And is like, what is this nonsense? I am not going to starve to death on some random colony, or get assassinated by some rando dude named Protos.
But back to Jermaine's original question that immediately made me think of this. Not only was there Shinzo, I looked it up, it means heart. I thought that was real sweet. But in Enterprise, there was the captain of the NXO2 Columbia. And she was a female and the classmate of Archer.
Mm-hmm. True. I forgot
But she sort of exists to be his girlfriend.
I don't know about girlfriend.
There's a distinct whole romantic thing, because she shows up when he's having his crisis of conscience in the middle of fucking nowhere,
climbing the same rock Kirk climbs 100 years later. Why they like to climb that rock, I don't know.
Because Rick Berman had real ideas about masculinity.
I don't know why. I think there's no real way to address the racism and the misogyny and the homophobia that went on throughout the TOS era and a good chunk of the TNG era, because it's like we have 2 prequels that say, hey, everything was fine. Mm-hmm. When we know is not.
Mm-hmm. Well, but that's kind of, I think that's one of the reasons that we get the time skip in Discovery, is because they were kind of wrestling with that history. And I know there are folks that have talked about how Discovery was thumbing its nose at traditional fans, but I think a lot of it had to do with trying to grapple with this background and grapple with this history. And, they can't really say what they want to say and still exist in this prequel universe.
Right. And then also, from the business perspective, they're trying to get as many as many people watching as possible. And you can't ignore the reality of our society today. We've moved beyond certain things. And so they've got to tell these stories, right?
And I have to admit, Discovery hasn't been great about all of them, because one of the things that they do bring forward is the whole narrative of Pike's disability, which is deeply uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable, but at the same time, it's are you pardon my French, are you shitting me? They couldn't have solved this? Come on.
I know, right? I know. And it's one of those things that I really kind of wish they dropped, because quite frankly, I get it. In the 60s, that kind of debilitating disability would have been incredibly difficult to deal with. And also Roddenberry was trying to cut corners and save money by, basically recapping the pilot that didn't air and putting it within a framing story. But we're 2021 and we're 2019, right? I mean, we're 2020. There's no reason that this has to be carried forward.
I have a theory about that. Discovery, aside from apologizing and making amends and treating Enterprise with respect, for season 3 and 4, I think Strange New Worlds is going to surprise you. I think the events are going to take place to where he does become disabled, because if you think about it, we don't think of them as disabled, but we've had a lot of disabled characters throughout Trek, Geordi being one of them.
Yeah, we have, but he also, even in Discovery, he saw his future, and he
saw his future, and he made the choice.
And it's really difficult to situate that in Discovery, because if you pay attention, sort of like our friend that wears the scant in season 1 of TNG, you'll note there's actually a guy in a wheelchair using various assistive devices floating around Disco. And there's never a suggestion that he needs to be fixed, because he doesn't. Mm-hmm. He's just doing his thing with his assistive device, and that's fucking fine.
And that's cool. That's okay.
But how do you square that background character with what they're going to do to Pike in the future?
Because I think they're going to undo it. This is what I think is going to happen.
I really don't think so. I really don't
know about that one.
Hear me out. Yeah, the writers know that they did a good job pissing us off with season 1 Discovery, so they know to tread lightly on the water of Strange New Worlds, because it is literally right there behind Kirk. Like, you can't get any closer. With that being said, if I were a writer behind this, I would say, hey, now that we know that they're watching our every move in Trek history, they also know that we know now that they're probably thinking, what's the point in watching Strange New Worlds if we already know what the fate of Captain Pike is going to be? Well, here's what I think. I think that fate is going to happen, but I think there's going to be more to the story after that ending.
I really don't think so, and I think that the fact that they feel the need to make amends to existing fans is why nothing is going to happen to that, because the Pike story is already canon.
It's canon, but I think there's more after that. I think there's going to be more after that was left unsaid.
I mean, dude ends up marooned on Talos 4.
That's what we know.
And Talos 4 is separated from literally everything on pain of execution.
That's what we know too.
I don't know. I don't know about that one.
Look, I know it's a stretch.
I don't know that completely. I mean, I hope you're right. It would be nice.
Look,
it would be nice for them.
I realize that. I know that each of my look. I may have been bullshitting on the Discovery predictions, but I don't. I think I'm right about this. I think the end of the very end. I'm talking about season 7, episode 29. Well, probably 13, knowing how they're going to do them. But how they're going to do it is, hey, I know y'all know that this is what happens. Yeah, this is what happens, but there's more to the story. Just like that, there was more to the prequel to what happened, and then after, and then the time that happened in between, which is where Discovery comes in with season 2 and 3. Season two. So if they can tell more around that story, I think they can tell more around the story of where he ends up on that planet, and how they can bring about whatever that fate doesn't necessarily have to be.
I'm almost positive that the implication is that he ends up stuffing Vara, whatever her name is, into perpetuity while like the giant-headed aliens watch.
Look, I'm here for it too.
Like, I'm pretty sure that's how that goes.
I'm here for it too, and I understand. But it's Star Trek.
I am not here for it.
You can come back in any kind of way. However,
I mean, they might ride horses metaphorically, but
get it. But I'm just saying, I think for Menagerie, is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're gonna tell another story that completely relates to it and say, hey, we know you know this, but the story is actually this. There's more to it. And
I mean,
they
we
never
can hope.
said in any of the future Trek, even in Discovery, they never mentioned the most they mention about Christopher Pike is when they give awards.
I mean, like I said, you know, like Alexander Pope has a line for this, which is, you know, hope springs eternal in the human breast. Man never is, but always to be blessed. And I kind of feel like that's where we're living right here.
I mean,
in that always to be blessed, that doesn't quite work out.
I mean,
space.
And who's to say someone didn't time travel and grab him? Who's to say that Q didn't pay him a visit? Who's to say, you know?
Dude, if you bring the temporal cold word into this, like, I'm gonna reach through the screen and, like, tap you upside the head.
If
like,
he,
no.
What if they come back, recover him, and make him a Section 31 agent?
You trying to pull me into this? No, it's not.
That is literally the line of Enterprise books where Trip doesn't die, because Trip's death is really effing stupid in that last episode of Enterprise.
That was stupid. That was absolutely stupid.
So much stupid.
That was stupid.
It was a terrible episode.
It was sudden, but again, I stand by what I say. You get what you get when you don't support it the way you need to support it. Because I had a feeling Rick Berman was telling the audience, "Fuck you" as well. I had a distinct feeling.
I have lots of thoughts about that one, but you know, it is, you know, I think speculating on what. Oh my God, Grudge! Stop with the door.
But you know what? I will say this, because we didn't actually see his death. Like, so much could have happened.
Don't we see his body?
I could have sworn a condo would exploded next to him.
Yeah.
You said
like,
what?
and he falls down dead.
So what happened was they find his body, they take him to sick bay, and then they put him into this, I don't know, this tube thing or whatever.
This CAT scan thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And he
lifts
up and he winks.
We don't actually see, oh, he's dead. Anything could have happened, you know, in Star Trek. Anything could have happened, yada yada yada.
We don't see his body after that either.
I will tell you what the coroner said when he came to police up my grandmother's body, and he was all like, and I swear this was one of the creepiest conversations I think I've ever had in my life, when he was very interested in assuring us that, well, grandmother fell down dead. She didn't die when she fell down. She fell down dead. And I'm pretty sure that's what happened to Trip. He fell down dead.
Why, Marie? Why?
I mean, y'all, the accent this guy had was insane. And I say this as somebody who was literally raised in Georgia. Right? And I'm looking at my mother going, what is wrong with this guy? She's like, weird people become coroner. I don't know. And I'm like, can't he just go pick up grandma out of the bathroom and like transport her away, and like we don't have to have this conversation? She's like, I don't know, but please stop making it awkward for everybody else.
I mean, today was a very great impromptu episode about what makes Trek.
I know, we have not managed to cover any of like the LGBT Trek part that we were going to discuss, and it's just kind of went sideways, but we have somehow managed to generate an hour of content.
This will have to
an hour of content that's going to get us hated off the internet, by the way.
No,
honestly, it's the truth. And if people, you know, this is what I have to say, and I'm not calling any names out, but to hell with anyone that thinks that this is too liberal, too much of a fantasy, too black, too gay, and too feminist. I'm sorry. And I hate to, I really am trying to be better about swearing on here, and I really am trying to be better about respecting other people's opinions that I might disagree with, because it's completely fine, it's cool. But
it's idic, right? It's idic.
Star Trek It's about tackling moral and social issues that we face every freaking day. And will not, even when we die, they will still go on until humanity makes a decision. They have to make a decision. Just like Dude said on The Day the Earth Stood Still, the remake. Only on the precipice can humanity make, on the precipice of destruction, can humanity make a decision. Just like Vulcans had to make a decision to turn from their ways, just like many different species had to turn from their ways to make a decision. Unfortunately, the Terran Empire didn't do that. So, and they got their asses kicked later on. So now you want to know, if you want to know what happens to you if you do not change your ways and actually make things equal, you will literally end up like the Terran Empire. And they ended up being nothing. Not only did they end up being nothing, they ended up not even coming back to the Prime Universe because they were far from nothing. They were dust. They were particles. They were no more than mindless automaton bipeds. They are nothing because they did not fix their ways in the beginning. They had the opportunity to. Can't no one say that they didn't try. They had the opportunity to. They squandered it. They got their asses kicked in the DS9 era.
I honestly think that what keeps bringing me back to Trek is this message that we have an affirmative obligation to make the right choices, to be the best that we can, and to make sure that the best that we can be involves welcoming as many different perspectives and as many different people who are different from us to the table as possible. And that's what keeps me coming back, and that's what, has sort of formed the most significant parts of my moral compass. So, whatever happened with Roddenberry and whatever happened with the original series, like, I will remain forever grateful that that is a message that has come to us from the 60s through the 90s, through the 2000s to, the 2010s. And I think that's one of the reasons that we can have something like Trekker's Delight, is because at the end of the day, we all sort of fundamentally ascribe to that idea. So whatever happens to the Terran Empire is immaterial for me. Where I am is what does this message tell me that I have to do? And it tells me that I still have work to do.
That sounds like a great way to sign off.
Guys, this is our impromptu episode of Trekker's Delight, and our main topic, under a combined LGBT, Black, and FTP.
Right.
Section 31.
Wow. This is not where we thought this was going to go.
At all. We had something very planned.
Real quick, the best conversations happen behind the scenes. Literally the best ones. And thank you for watching today, guys. I'll try to word this the best way I can. And signing off. Have a good one.
See you.
What's up, guys? My name is William Walker with LGBT Trek. I'm finna arm wrestle my brother-in-law real quick. Last minute stuff, a lot of tequilas behind this. I'm not, he is. But we're about to talk about some Star Trek TNG, mainly the host, where we started to question Beverly Crusher's sexuality and how weird the episode is in general because they didn't have enough money to make trails. But right now, I'm gonna bring my brother-in-law in here, who's up here for the ring to go against me. Let's do this. Welcome to Trekker's Delight, baby. We're finna do this.
All right, cool. Let's go.
A lot.
Okay.
Dude.
Okay. We're gonna do this. Okay, we're doing this.
I gotta tell you, on the list of things I expected for this evening, this was not on it. This is not on it.
Wait, what's that?
How do we sit in front of you? You have to sit right there.
Wait, I'm gonna move the table.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, damn.
Okay, let's do this. So it's fine.